Hey, Higgins.
Hey.
Hey, we're back again.
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Another couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're just knocking episodes out left and right, you know.
Yeah, until we aren't.
Yep. And as usual, I've been wandering around the apartment, house, wherever it is we live, the place that we're together,
Yeah.
thinking of, what's the perfect intro? What's the perfect opening bit for this book that we're about to talk about? And not too many spoilers right now, but as you know, if you read it, it's about a wandering Ronin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Kinda.
and I've done heavy research, and I've found the perfect soundbite of what a wandering Ronin does when it wanders. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna play right now. I'm gonna play it.
All right. Okay. I'm ready.
Swing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, because it's the it's the sword.
Yeah,
he's
pulling it out, and he dropped out of the sky before he did it.
And now he's dead.
No, man, he's not dead.
Or is he?
I mean, we find out. Kinda.
Let's find out right now, shall we?
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome everybody to Comrades, Cocktails, and Comics. It's a show where I, Snoop Lynch, and my co-host Higgins Snoop,
Hey.
that's him. Well, we get together, we drink together, and we also read together, and we want you to be there with us. That's the intro for the show. Always has been, always will be.
Yeah, nailed it. At least the order was right.
Mm-hmm. Was it? Of course it was. As
Yeah.
it always is. Yeah. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad.
Mm-hmm. Ready to be back?
Yeah, I'm ready to be back. I'll get this one going and then pop it out to you guys.
That's right. And then we'll pop one out shortly after, and then we'll be back on schedule finally.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we'll go back to monthly. I know that people are really upset about that. We've been just giving them the goods left and right these days. But if we did that every time, it wouldn't be special.
I know.
Yeah. But before we go back to a regular monthly boring schedule, let's not do that. Instead, talk about this book that I picked and you read with me. Not together, separate rooms.
Separate times.
Yeah. Different schedules. It's fine. Called Ronin.
By Frank Miller.
Mm-hmm. Written and drawn by.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We've read a Frank Miller illustrated / written book before, I think. Or no, we haven't, because he didn't draw
do
Batman.
Year one.
Yeah. But he did the Dark Knight Returns, and I think he did his run on Daredevil as well. And he was still feeling pretty good about drawing, I guess, so he did it on this book. Ronin came out, it was published by DC Comics back, I think, between 1983 and 1984. Not going too heavily into it, as far as... This is definitely a book from the 80s, mostly just kind of in certain parts that are maybe a little dicey today. I was not expecting this to be... It's kind of racist.
Yeah, well, at least the characters inside it are racist.
Yeah, but I think that aside, different times, there is a good story in here, and I looked a little bit kind of into how this came about. This is actually Frank Miller's original idea. He worked on Daredevil at Marvel. I think he did The Man Without Fear. At the time, it was kind of like the big reboot that Daredevil needed, got it really popular.
Yeah, people like that one. I haven't read it yet.
And I think in that run, that's when you kind of get introduced to like big stuff with I think it's the Hand. Those are the ninjas that he fights?
Yeah.
And so Frank Miller did a lot of research on like samurai and Ronin and swordsmen and just culture from feudal Japan. And so he, I guess, kind of latched on that so much that he decided to spin off a completely separate story into it. I've got a quote from him here describing it if you would want to hear it, Higgins.
Yeah, go ahead and give that thing to me.
I'll give it right to you, fast and loose. He says, the aspect of the samurai that intrigues me most is the Ronin, the masterless samurai, the fallen warrior. This entire project comes from my feelings that we modern men are Ronin. We kind of cut loose. I don't get the feeling from the people I know, the people I see on the street, that they have something greater than themselves to believe in. Patriotism, religion, whatever, they've all lost their meaning for us. So, a little bit of politics in there. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying he's just doing his own thing. He don't got no master.
No, he's a bit of a loose unit, and so's the character in this book. I mean, this entire story is just like, and I guess it's just like an 80s comics thing.
One kind of loose unit.
Yeah.
It's just all over the all over the dang place.
This is not at all what I thought it was going to be, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but man, is this a really, as it goes, buck wild story.
Man, it's barely a samurai story.
Yeah, I mean, I knew, and I kind of mentioned it in the last episode, that Samurai Jack is loosely kind of based off of this story.
Yeah.
And I guess the premise that I can't remember that guy's name, Gendy Tartakovsky, who made Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
I guess what he mainly took was just, what if a samurai in the future and he fought a demon? And that's the premise of this book as far as getting things started.
I mean, they even do the same sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the future, well, kinda, and have robots and whatnot.
Yeah. It's like a small little glimpse in kind of this ancient culture of Japan and the warriors that were around at the time. And then you take one and then you kind of put it in this weird cyberpunk future. And the world's just kind of like gone to shit. And this guy's supposed to save the day. But yeah, as far as how he gets to the future, that's something I wasn't ready for at all.
Which, like, I mean, it might be way too early to say this, but the fact that, like, basically everything we saw about the Ronin to begin with was basically a dream, right?
I
Kinda.
think it's a mix of a dream and influences from a TV show. Because they kind of reveal at some point that the story of the Ronin, while we figure out, like, eventually is kind of this concept created by another character, it's also based on a fictional show in this universe, because there's a guy who says that the description that he was given of the Ronin reminds him of a very similar show.
I must have missed that part.
Yeah, it's like a one little line. I kind of just caught it on a small kind of reread, going through it again, which when you kind of get the twist revealed, that actually makes a lot of sense.
It makes the random jumps they do make way more sense, because, like, I'll tell you, I was reading a samurai book, and halfway through the first issue, like, I wasn't reading a samurai book anymore. I was reading, like, my biggest nightmare, basically. Giant smart robot decides it wants to take over.
Yeah, that does sound very different. Are you sure you didn't put down the samurai book and pick up another book?
No, I think I got the right one.
Wow,
I know.
that's crazy.
It's a mix. It's a mix. It was a big mix up. And I mean, it was cool.
Yeah.
But man, it was not what I expected. And man, this thing's long.
It is very long. It's like 6 issues, but each issue, this is part of a maxi series imprint at the time, which is kind of like your premium comic books. Like, you pay a little more, but you get more content, and there's no I mean, we read it digitally, so we didn't get these anyway, but back then you would have flipped open a page and you're like, here's the Samurai on one, and here's an ad for a Snickers bar on the other. You didn't get that here, though. You just got all Samurai all the time.
All premium.
Mm-hmm, all primo stuff. Which made a lot more sense after I kind of figured that out. Because, yeah, like, I read the first issue, and I just assumed that I was on, like, issue 3, and then finally I got to the end of the first issue, and I'm like, man, what happened?
I got 5 more.
Yeah. But as it went, and as it started to kind of... this story is very just, like, you kind of have to be on board enough to roll with it, and just accept that for the first few issues, you're going to be really confused. And if you can stick through it and kind of more of the plot shows itself and more explanations are given, it makes more sense. And for me, it kind of made the back half of the story just kind of fly by.
Yeah, it went a little bit faster. Once I didn't have to, like, double back and see, like, what I read, because, I mean, we already said it's an old comic, and they love to talk in old comics.
Yeah.
They hadn't really quite figured out the picture to word ratio by then.
Yeah. I will say that this is not the worst comic like that I've read. I've read ones that are way worse. I tried to read some old X-Men comics, and it is just, you don't realize how much you hate someone talking about using their powers until you have to read 18 different characters in one issue talk about how to use their powers. So it's not quite that bad, but it does kind of, like, bog itself down a bit in the city parts. And, which I guess it's a city. I can't really tell.
It's a city, but it's, like, basically already taken over by this robot. They just don't really realize it yet. At first, they're like, oh, this robot's doing all the things for us. Like, it's helping us out. And then by the end of it, you're like, man, this thing, she's really running the show.
Or he.
Nah, they pretty much say Virgo's a she throughout towards the end there.
Oh yeah, it was the 80s. I guess Virgos had to be she's back then, huh?
Yeah. They were born in May.
Great month.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. That was just I just picked a month.
Well, you've never met a Virgo, so in your defense, all you can do is guess.
Plus, people, if we mess up enough times, someone's bound to say some words at us, even if they're saying we're wrong.
Oh man, and then we won't have to talk to each other finally. We can just talk to them.
Any press is good press.
It's all marketing at the end of the day. Yeah, we already kind of touched on the Ronin coming to the future, and they've set up a system. It's like biocircuitry. It can create biocircuitry on its own, and so that's kind of supposed to help bring the world back to life and provide resources, since humanity kind of used everything up and now we don't have anything else. And the whole reason it's kind of taking off for this company, we find out, is Virgo is using Billy Chalice or something like that.
Chalice.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, he was born with no limbs, but he also has
telekinetic powers.
Yeah, and they're testing like prosthetics and artificial limbs on him because
he's able to make him move with his mind.
And that helps kind of progress that research, and that way other people can use it, and then they can, because I guess everybody's missing an arm or a leg in this universe, and so that's kind of what their shtick is.
They need it.
Yeah, I mean, have you been out in New York City outside of this company? It's awful. It's Mad Max out there.
There's like straight up zombie looking folks, just like sitting on like broken brick buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah, how'd you feel kind of, and you see a lot of it more in the city stuff, like how'd you feel about the art on this?
Man, it made it pretty confusing to look at. There's too many like shading lines on everything, and I feel like that made it, I don't know, it looked weird.
I definitely agree. The exterior stuff in particular, I had no idea what I was looking at sometimes.
Yeah, you'd see the person, and then like the background would just be like a bunch of random shapes, and it didn't help that it was like half the stuff's like you're looking at some robot type deals going on, so like it was already a little confusing to look at in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when you kind of get closer up stuff and like there's people, it's fairly easy to kind of discern what's happening. Like the samurai fights are all pretty good as long as it's kind of out away from the corporation, because the corporation's just made up by a bunch of green wibbly wobbly blobs.
That's the thing. Like if you got anything attached to it, it's just, like you said, just green, different shades of green, like blobs on top of something.
And Frank Miller didn't actually do the colors on this. That's the other name that's on the front of the book. It's Lynn Varley. That's the person who did the coloring, and they actually painted this. I think, I don't know for sure, but my guess would be kind of to mimic the style of like Japanese art, maybe. In some aspects it works. Like a lot of the samurai stuff I think is actually kind of cool, and it's, I don't know, vintage, and it's got character to it. Like there's a style of its own to this book that you can appreciate.
Oh yeah,
for the most part.
Sticks to itself, and it looks the same as like anything else from the 80s did. Like they have weird colors.
Weird hair.
They like to shade a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this looks a lot like what's it? The Swamp Thing that we read not too long ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's basically the same sort of deal. I mean, we had the same kind of comments, I feel like, about that as we did this.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I remember you telling me on your version, which I think was older, the colors were a little wonky in places as well.
Same with year one, which was written about the same time.
But other than that, like once you kind of just accept that and move on, this is a really weird story.
It's maybe Frank Miller had gone crazy by now.
This may have kind of like started it, or maybe this was like, because he got a lot of creative control over this. Originally, the story was supposed to be published by Marvel because he had done some work for them for Daredevil, but someone at DC, I think, kind of just convinced him like, hey, we'll let you do whatever it is you want. And they kind of kept letting him do that until he needed to not do that anymore.
Oh yeah.
They still let him do things every now and again. He's doing another Dark Knight Returns book, probably. They're up to 5 or 6. I don't know what Batman's doing, but good for Frank Miller. And he does have a really kind of just interesting take. I don't kind of agree with kind of the dialogue that's said in some of this. In particular, and you know exactly where I'm going to go with this, there is a small little subplot about him being hired by a group of Nazis. And
Yeah, like they have a white gang and then a black gang.
I think it's the Black Panther Party or something. I don't know.
I don't know the exact sort of deal, but he gets hired by two extreme sides, and then he has like a hippie manager.
Yeah.
That's like, man, you're gonna be the next big samurai dude.
Yeah.
And then he hires him for both gigs. He gets hired to kill both sides of
The leaders
of a gang
each.
war.
Yeah, yeah. Which
I guess he holds up on.
Yeah, he holds up on that because he murders them both. But in between that part, it's just kind of like I was just kind of reading it to hopefully get past it. It's not the main plot, so
Yeah, I think they just wanted to show more samurai fighting.
yeah.
But man, he gets beat up a lot for being like so good.
Well, I think he's good. I've noticed I think he's good on like up to 3 or 4 people at a time. But then the second that there's more than that,
He just stops.
Yeah, he
He's
gets
like,
kicked
I guess
around.
I guess I'm done now.
until he has a really big headache and then people disintegrate or explode. Because that's the
the big
biggest
twist.
thing. Yeah, is
It's just Billy the whole time with prosthetic limbs.
which I found really interesting because, yeah, that character Billy that we mentioned, he was born without limbs, and so he has these weird, which I guess he's the only one that has psychic abilities, but it goes so far to the point where he can alter reality.
Like not everybody, but like certain people.
It's kind of whatever he wants to do, but early on, you don't really get a sense of that. I think as the story goes, it kind of gets more and more powerful because he changes. You see,
He
Billy
does change his appearance.
Yeah, you see him in the very beginning. He's talking to Virgo. He's just a guy, and you don't really think anything of it. And then you hear about him and how he was taken over by the samurai. But then it turns out he just turned himself into the samurai, but just the torso and the head. They still had to give him robot legs and arms.
Yeah, he still had the limbs for it.
Which I found really funny.
It's like I was looking through the first one, and it makes sense now because you see all that samurai stuff at the beginning, and then like there's plenty of times where he's just like in his own head sleeping or whatever.
Yeah, it's dormant.
And then like right when you first meet Billy hanging in his like zone, they're like Billy, and like it's like they're waking him up from his little samurai dream.
Yeah.
And so that it kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
But like, man, when I was reading it, I caught a lot of the main story beats, but a lot of the middle stuff kind of fell through the cracks.
Yeah, it kind of just, it's a lot, and it happens just, especially at the back half, it just happens all at once. Like you get explanations here, this stuff happens, this is happening. You just kind of roll with what you're able to understand or pick up on, and then maybe you go back and kind of look at it again, and more stuff kind of like makes sense as you think about it, and that makes it fun. I don't think that this is like a really well written story or anything, but I think it's well written enough where it's just kind of, it's like a blockbuster of movies or of comics. You just get some popcorn and just go for the ride. Because
stay for the big fight scenes. And then the only other part that made it hard for me was the panel like placements. I don't know if you were reading through and like felt like you were reading the wrong spot at the wrong time, just based off of what you were looking at. Because sometimes I swear like it would go like, you know, the normal like left to right down thing, but I swear sometimes you'd have to read like the whole left column down.
Yeah.
Which would be like 3 panels and then the whole right column down.
That sounds awful. Luckily, I didn't have to do that though, because on my comic reader, it gives you a little, like it takes you panel to panel.
It takes you to the right ones.
I don't even have to think about it. I'm just in there. Although that being said, there's a lot of like little
small ones.
So that got a little confusing because I'm just like, did something mess up? Because I'm looking at a lot of blank nothing right now. But yeah, I could definitely see where that just throws you completely, and you kind of have to go back. But I don't think having to go back and read certain sections of this as you read it the first time are bad either, because you, like I said, you pick up on stuff. You kind of,
oh yeah, you'll catch up on more stuff.
yeah. So I think it's really interesting in that aspect. This is definitely way more like in depth than the last couple books we've read, but I think it's got a good blend of weird sci-fi story and action and samurai. Like the samurai stuff is fun. It's not what I'm curious because as far as I can tell, all the samurai stuff, at least in like, the present story, the future stuff, all of that is Billy's doing. Like he created this story in this world to the point where he can convince a woman that she loves him, which is a little creepy, but he's able to do it. And he turns that corporate boss guy into the demon that the samurai's supposed to kill. But I'm curious.
I don't think he didn't turn the boss into it. I took it as Virgo's the bad guy, and that's Virgo's the demon, and then Virgo took over the boss so that Virgo could do what Virgo was doing.
Yeah.
And then because he was that's just what Billy translated the demon into, was the physical presence of somebody.
Yeah.
Because, like, you see, I guess you kind of see, I mean, the demon does it, but, like, you see him get all blobby and stuff like Virgo does to people. After, I don't know, they have some meeting. He's sitting in his underwear, and then he gets turned into a blob, and then robot demon Taggart guy puts the glasses on.
That's what happens when I put my underwear on with my glasses.
Hey, man,
Every Monday.
He's back.
Yeah. One at a time. One leg at a time.
Before we start diving into our girl Casey, what's her last name? McKenna or something like that?
That sounds nice.
That sounds right?
Yeah.
All right, Casey McKenna, we'll talk about this drink here. Because
yeah.
that's about, like, the rest of the story is basically her thing with our boy.
Yeah.
With our boy Billy.
And
that's the back half, basically.
Yeah. And I got thoughts on that I'd like to get out if you would kindly indulge me. But indulge me first and tell me what this drink is about.
This drink is called a Midnight Samurai. I found it online because, what's it?
Because the library was closed.
Yeah, the
for
library
Memorial
was
Day
closed.
weekend. Yeah, where you get all your other recipes.
But what's it? A Ronin's a samurai without a master, so I couldn't find a Ronin cocktail, so I found a samurai cocktail.
Works for me. They both got swords.
And this drink doesn't have a master, so we can call it a Midnight Ronin.
Yeah.
I won't tell anybody.
I mean, I'm certainly not going to master this drink because it's kicking my ass right now.
Yeah, it's just two things. It's just Kahlua, which we've actually been using a lot of lately.
We need to go get new Kahlua at the store.
And then sake, which is rice wine, Japanese drink.
Arigato.
Mixed with Kahlua. So we got the Japanese part mixed with the Kahlua part.
Yeah, and
then there's like some ounces. We'll put the thing on the...
Yeah, do the thing that we did.
We'll put the thing on the thing, and you can look it up if you want to.
Yeah, get your own
It's
sake.
pretty strong, though.
Oh, it's my cat scratching at the door.
Oh, okay.
Gary! Phil! Sorry, everyone.
But yeah, it's
Cat.
pretty strong.
It's really strong, but I think what's killing me is just
It's basically just Kahlua. They just like they both kind of just dull each other just a hair. It's not bad. I mean, it tastes fine for what it is.
It's just sweet. Like
Yeah.
I don't. This isn't really what I like.
And it's old sake. I don't know if sake goes bad or not.
No, Higgins. It's just rice. Does rice go bad?
Well, it's rice wine. I mean, wine doesn't normally go bad, but
And neither does rice. So rice wine shouldn't go bad.
but I don't remember if sake had bubbles or not.
Well, who's
And
to say?
ours didn't have it now, so I don't know if it was supposed to have it this time.
You're saying it'd be better if we put bubbles in here,
Well, I'm just saying I don't know if I'm missing out on bubbles.
which would be a real shame.
Yeah, I don't think it does, but
Yeah. Either way, yeah, it's not my cup of tea or my cup of sake, but it's a drink, isn't it?
the internet says sake doesn't have an expiration date, so we're good.
Thank God.
Thank goodness for the internet.
This drink probably has an expiration date though, because I don't think I'm ever gonna have it again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have the one probably.
Yeah, I mean it's a Monday night, you know. You got to work tomorrow. Take it easy.
Yeah, I gotta do some driving tomorrow.
But right now you're doing some podcasting, aren't you?
Yeah,
That's
and,
right.
what's it? We're gonna talk about Casey now.
Yeah, Casey.
She's the police captain,
She's the security lady.
main security lady.
Yeah, the
She's
security
like-
lady. Yeah.
And she's really about capturing old Ronin for like the first half, the part that we just talked about.
Yeah, we talked about that part.
Because he killed those three guys.
Pretty
and
easily, yeah.
She was like, he killed those three guys. We should probably get him. He's not a great dude.
Did you see him? He had a sword.
He had a sword and he cut him.
We don't have swords. We don't cut people.
But Billy, who I don't think we really mentioned this, he has telekinetic powers, but he's also not exactly all there in the head in the first place.
No, he's got some issues, yeah.
But he's got a thing for Casey because she's always nice to him or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of him being chased by her and Virgo doing shady stuff, Casey starts falling on the Ronin Billy side of things. I think that's kind of what happens. I'm sure he uses his powers a little bit.
It's heavily implied that he's using his psychic powers to make her fall in love with him. And it makes a lot of sense because, like you said, she wants to kill him and she knows that it's Billy, because they mention that before she goes out, that it's actually Billy being this samurai. And she says, I don't care, he's dangerous, we need to kill him. And it's not like that they really have this moment that justifies the turn that happens, which is they sleep together.
Well, there's not really anything. I mean, she gets captured by like some
cannibals.
Some cannibals. And that one dude gets like all of his limbs eaten except for one. Yeah. And that part was really like, that part was actually pretty freaky.
Yeah, it's a good use of kind of, it really sets the tone for that scene, but also how messed up the city is, because there's just a bunch of inbreds living underground who eat anyone they can find. And that guy went mad because it was just a really funny line. It was just like, hey, give me your hand so we can.
He's like, hand?
Yeah. He had lost it. Yeah, like he saved her, and it's clear. Like, I understand why he would have feelings for her, because, like you said, it was one of the few people that was ever nice to him, and he's not really there. But like I said, this guy can alter reality. And
yeah, he made her a samurai.
Yeah, and
which, I mean, technically he did make her good at swords.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting,
because someone mentions to her, like, even in the story, she's like, hey, you couldn't do this before.
Yeah, it's Virgo, because it's when she does that assault on the building that Virgo's trying to convince her to stop, that she hadn't even picked up a sword until today, and yet she's a master samurai now. And I like that kind of progression of Billy's powers, because it was already interesting enough that he could, make things move or explode with his mind, and then it just quickly derails into this weird altering reality nonsense. Like, it's a mess, but for whatever reason, I really kind of enjoy it. And I like that. I don't really like the whole falling in love with him thing. I just, like I said, I think it's just kind of weird, but I do like that character in the end, because she does kind of pick up on it.
I think it was just a way to make sure she stuck around for most of the plot and wasn't just Miss Cop Lady that was chasing him the whole time.
Yeah.
Because she had to, I mean, as bad as old Billy was being, old Virgo was being even worse. Mm-hmm. And I think they just were like, man, we need to take this guy down.
Yeah, I think a lot of it.
And then he was like, but also make it sexy.
He knows what the people wants at the end of the day, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That is the 80s. Just big hair, big robots, big sexy. Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it works in the context of the story, that all of this, for the most part, is Billy's fantasy. And that's how the story will end, because it just ends. And I think the reason why is because he finished the story, and he didn't really have an idea of what's supposed to come next.
Yeah, you see it like just unfold, and I guess like that's kind of how it ends too. You don't know he doesn't know how it's gonna end, so it just kind of does.
And even the way it starts, I think the way it starts is because that is, like you said, that's Billy's dream that we see. That's really the only background information on the Ronin we get. I think everything that has to do with the Ronin is because that's what Billy kind of wants the story to be. And Virgo knows that to the point where she's the one who caused all of it, because she's the one who orchestrated the whole thing.
Oh yeah, she got it in his head, and then made him use his powers. And then by the end of it, she's gotten so powerful that she almost can mimic his powers herself.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what seems to have happened is they created Virgo, and she was just a regular AI who was supposed to work with Billy and improve the cybernetic stuff. But then because of Billy's weird powers, it kind of made her go crazy, and she wanted to become more human.
Basically sentient.
And the way to do that was to unleash Billy's full potential and kind of harness that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why she played out this whole scenario. It just ended up backfiring on her because Casey was the one who kind of grounded Billy and brought him back enough where they could beat him. And now it's just there's a huge explosion that wipes out, and it's kind of that is kind of neat in that artwork where you see him like let off this huge psychic explosion, and it wipes out all the green.
Yeah, all the pieces like separate, like come like fall completely apart, basically.
Yeah, which you would have to do because Virgo is all of that biocircuitry stuff. Like she is so integrated in anything that is a part of that. She can even bring someone back from the dead who had, because Casey's actually married to this. He's like the head scientist.
Doctor that made the stuff.
And we see earlier when, because he's kind of like framed and they make him look crazy, so he can't stop Virgo, but he has some of the biocircuitry integrated with him. And so after he's killed, he comes back because Virgo can control him and basically make it like it's still him in a way. I think he's still dead. I don't think she really brought him back to life, but it's almost like all of his memories and personality and everything, that's how integrated into the biocircuitry it is. So if Ronin and Casey hadn't have stopped Virgo, it's almost like an infection. Like you see all that green.
It starts to
expand.
It starts to spread out. And then, because he's a creepy little zombie like biocircuitry thing. Yeah,
and that probably was like the end game of.
Then she shoots him in the face.
She does shoot him in the face, and that's pretty tight. Yeah, I think all the characters come together really well, and they all kind of have something to do. There's a few random characters that honestly had more play than I would have.
I could not have cared less about that learned guy.
Yeah.
I was like, every time I got a scene with him, I was like, God, this is like gonna be like 2 pages of things I just don't care to listen to.
He didn't really do
nothing
much.
Ever like progressed with him. He was just like the second man on the totem pole behind Taggart. So you see like he's sitting there and he's like, oh man, this guy's really going crazy. And that's literally his whole, like, the entire book, that's all he does, is he's like, oh man, this guy's getting pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's real crazy now. He was a dull character. The most of them were pretty good, but...
Yeah. I think what they were trying to do with him, and it just doesn't really 100% work, is he seemed like this guy who just cared about the bottom line, and he didn't, he'd do anything to make a deal and get some money or whatever. But he kind of sees how bad this has gotten out of hand and helps evacuate the city. So maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. But I think it would have been more interesting if, because you said he's the second guy on the totem pole, he always seemed like he kind of wanted to be, on top. So I think it would have been more interesting if he had been the one that
that
becomes the demon or
taken
whatever.
Over by the... Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that story before.
Yeah. But it's neither here nor there. He's there, but he's not hugely impactful. And really, at the end of the day, the 3 characters we focus on are Virgo, Ronin, and Casey. And I think they all get a pretty decent amount to do in a lot of good moments. Virgo ended up being a lot more sinister than I was expecting.
Man, telling you, man, robots that think, not good. Not good.
Yeah, I mean... More and more every day, you've got more evidence.
I know.
Just show them this book.
Everybody just ignores it, but here we are making smarter robots every day.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, we'll make one that can podcast for us.
Man, if they do that, I'd probably be down.
Hold on, Steve's gonna open the door. Open the door, Steve.
We can cut this part out.
But will we?
But yeah, what's it? The last thing I want to talk about is the last, dream sequence thing, I guess is what you could call it. Not really a dream sequence. He's stuck in the black and he's talking with Virgo a bunch, and you see Casey doing her trip through Virgo to take it down.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty neat when he's talking back and forth with Virgo, and he like we said, he's not all there. He doesn't have the highest mental capacity because he's basically like a 5-year-old kid, it seems like a lot of the time. He's like, Mom, I don't want you to do this. And then Virgo's like, shut up. It's like, listen to me and whatnot. And he's like, you're right.
Yeah.
I should go back to sleep.
Yeah, well, I think that whole sequence it shows Virgo's biggest flaw, and the reason why she loses is because she has been using Billy this whole time without anyone knowing, and a lot of that has to do with his past. We see a very small flashback of why he's with them in the first place. Basically, he was being bullied, and he killed that bully, and his mom got scared and sent him away. So he doesn't want that to happen again. He is in a lot of ways still that young child, and so Virgo uses that to her advantage. But because of that, and because of how much control she thinks she has over him, she doesn't realize that he is fighting back, and that he's got a new lady, and she's kind of the main priority. And that ends up, I think, being her downfall, because Billy is kind of MIA at this point. Like, the Ronins can't do anything, and so Casey's the one who steps up and makes her way there, because she knows that he has to be the one to end this. But she couldn't have done that without his help, because he does kind of come back every now and again to use his telekinesis to get her there.
And then he finally just full on brain blasts.
It reminded me a lot of, you ever seen or heard of Akira?
I've heard and seen some of the beginning of it.
Yeah.
I've never made it all the way through.
There's a really big moment at the end where a guy who got some psychic powers explodes and the city's wiped out. But I think there's like 2 people left. I don't know if it was intentional, but it reminded me a lot of that. But yeah, like you said, the story's just over. And I was kind of like, at first I was kind of disappointed, because I'm like, oh, the story's over. But it does work kind of just to end it right there, because that was all Billy wanted to do. Like, that was his goal as the Ronin, was to kill the demon. He didn't really have anything to go off of after that. Maybe he didn't watch any more of that show. Maybe Virgo didn't tell him any more stories. That's all he really had in his head, was the end goal, and he did it. And so yeah, it's just him and Casey, and I guess maybe he's the Ronin forever now.
If he wants to be, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to kind of say about it. It's a wild story. And
yeah, it'd be something I mean, it would be neat to see it, I think. I think it would be an easier watch.
Oh, you think like as a show or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think there's been talks. Sci-Fi was supposed to do something with it, apparently, at some point.
This 100% seems like a sci-fi. The only problem is that if sci-fi does it, it'll be shitty.
Yeah, because they don't have the budget.
Yeah.
No, I think if you're going to do this, it needs to... You could do this in a movie, I think. I think there's enough to condense down here to make it like a 90-minute to 2-hour movie, and it'd be pretty good. But if you wanted to, maybe like a limited series on Amazon or HBO or something with the wallet to back it, it'd be pretty, and update it obviously for the times. But other than that, yeah, I think it is a fun story that would work in that way.
Yeah, that's basically all I had to say about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been kind of biding some time so I can figure out what I want to do for my rating.
Oh, okay.
And
always a professional, Higgins. That's what I like about podcasting with you.
Oh, there's just a lot of things I could go for. I mean, it's fun, like we said, but it's convoluted and long.
It's really long.
And like, don't read it when you're sleepy, because you will fall asleep. But yeah, no, it's good. Give it a. It's worth a shot.
Higgins, is it good enough to give it a rating?
It's worth a shot. Yeah, I mean, I can try. I still haven't thought of anything, but don't worry, I'll come up with something.
Okay. Do you want me to give a rating?
Yeah, go first.
All right. I'm gonna give you some time here and tell you that my rating for this book, your phone's vibrating. Get that. Who is it? Is it Mom?
Yeah, it's the family group message. My brother said something.
I bet he did. Why doesn't he say it on the microphone? Get us content out of it at least.
Not about this.
Why not?
What's All right, I've got an idea now. If you want to do your thing.
No. You got a fresh hot idea. I don't want you to lose that. Go for it. What do you got?
Well, I'm doing math right now.
Oh my God.
Hold up.
Higgins, we don't have all day.
All right, I'm gonna give it a 32.9 out of 47, and it's only, which is a 7 out of 10 basically. I know we didn't read 47 Ronin, but I know people know what 47 Ronin is, so I found 47, and then I did 7 out of 10 of it.
Not only did you find that, you found a way to make that real dumb joke.
Yeah.
And I know you're proud of that, and I'm proud of you for that, yeah. I'm not going to give it that. Instead, for this book, I'm going to give it 60 weird, goobly, wibbly-wobbly green blobs.
Yeah, wibbly wobblies.
That I can't quite make out as they move around. But in the center of it, there's a certain Ronin and a certain lady having a good time in some snow. And you will know what that means if you read this book.
Oh yeah, they do have fun in the snow because he made the snow.
Yeah, he says that one thing about eating a strawberry between two tigers, and it's done right there, isn't it?
Man. Frank Miller.
You see, it's weird, isn't it?
Frank Miller, it is weird that they got together.
Yeah.
But Frank Miller wanted to draw a sexy scene.
And I would never want to take sexy scenes away from Frank Miller.
And it's like, I don't know.
It's there, isn't it?
He does a fine job, I guess.
Yeah, you know. I've seen sexier, but
it's tasteful.
It is tasteful, isn't it? You could put that on the wall in your house. We should.
Yeah, there's no like real crazy stuff in there.
We need some bathroom art. Think we can mock that up real quick? Maybe.
We'll get somebody.
But until then, that's the book. That's Ronin.
Yeah. Do you want to do the things where we say they can find us?
Higgins, we'll clean up shop, but not before a little tease of what's to come. If you're okay with that.
Oh, you're gonna tell them what we're reading next first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which our plan is to do in the next couple weeks. You're about to go away on a trip, and we don't know how long you'll be gone. But
it'll be a toss up. Hopefully, it won't be too long. But
yeah, if anything, I'd say in the next few weeks it'll be out for sure.
For sure.
But yeah, so recently Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther in the Marvel Universe, and Jackie Robinson, 42, James Brown, get on up, like just a phenomenal actor in his own right. He tragically passed away at the age of 43 from, was it colon cancer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like stage 4 terminal that he's been dealing. He had it even when he was filming like all the Marvel stuff and whatnot.
It's insane that he was able to kind of, like he was diagnosed in like 2016, and between that and now, Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, like everything he was doing, it's just incredible to me that he was able to pull that off, and it's really, really sad to see him go. But I thought that kind of in his honor, a couple of dumb podcasters could read a Black Panther story and talk about that.
Which one did you decide on?
Yeah, so I've never actually read, I don't know if I've read
never
any.
read it. I've never read any.
I've seen the movie. I was kind of trying to stay in that realm.
So you're talking about this Killmonger's Revenge?
I saw that one, but I think a better one. I think a better one to go with is this one right here. It's called Black Panther. Who is the Black Panther?
Oh, that guy is the Black Panther or whatever.
Yeah, that guy, that great guy that we all know.
Digimon Hansu.
No, it's written by Reginald Hudlin.
Yeah.
And it was written back in 2005. It's 6 issues, and it kind of goes into the origin of T'Challa coming back. It has Claw in it, who was also in the movie. So I think, just from what I've read, apparently this is one of the definitive Black Panther origin stories.
I got you.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be a pretty good one to look at. And it's actually right now, and I think there's a bunch of other ones, but this particular run is free on Comixology. It's like 200 plus Black Panther comics were...
given out on the free?
Yeah, at least for the time being, to kind of honor him as well. He did a lot for that character in such a short time, and there's no telling what he would have done going forward, but it's made a huge impact on everybody.
Before they made the movie, I'd literally never heard of the character.
Yeah, and I'd heard of the character, but I didn't really know anything about him except that he wore a Black Panther suit and sometimes has a cape. So yeah, let's get into that, I think, whenever we can. But for now, let's clean up shop. I don't know what that sound is.
Yeah, I thought it was my computer, but it's not.
Must be Steve.
Oh, it is my computer. It's my computer fan.
Oh, your computer fan's getting so hot, Higgins.
I know, it's working hard.
Oh, man. As are we. Before your computer dies or explodes on you, let's clean up shop and tell people things.
All right. They can find me on the Twitter at Mike Higgins93 and Instagram at jsturm93. And they can find Snoop on those things, both Snoop_Lynch, but you can find them better at yourcomrades@gmail.com.
That's our email.
That's our email.
Yep.
That's our Gmail.
That is our email. Gmail, you're right. You can tell us things there.
You can tell me I was wrong about Virgos.
I can't wait to do that.
And then maybe I can meet my first Virgo.
In May.
In May.
On her birthday, yes. I wish you the best, Higgins, in that.
It could be a guy too.
Why not?
I mean, we did say all Virgos were girls, but that can't be true.
Well, not now, but that was the 80s.
Yeah, I guess that was the 80s.
Now anyone can be a Virgo.
Man.
Yeah.
2020.
Crazy. But Yeah, do all those things. Tell us what you thought of this book, The Ronin. Tell us what you think about Black Panther. Who is the Black Panther? Or another Black Panther story you're going to read. Maybe you don't want to read that one. Maybe you've read it and you're like, that's a bad one to read. Don't read it. But I'm going to read it and you can read something different and tell me. Do that. Also, if you want, if you've got the time, if you don't mind, you can leave a little review about this podcast on your podcast app probably.
And a rating.
Yeah, rating or a review or both.
The iTunes or like the Spotify, probably the best two options because more people will see it that way.
Yeah, a Google podcast perhaps. They're getting big. That little company Google. I think they're going to be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they'll make it. And that's pretty much it for this episode.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So, as is tradition, I will say my sign off, which is cheers, guys. And Higgins, as usual, will say his sign off.
Shut up, mama, shut up, don't call me bad, and then kaboom. Can you make a kaboom noise for me there?
Yeah. Do you want me to add like a screaming baby in the background?
No, I mean, I don't need that. I just need like a light explosion.
Okay.
Well, nothing that's going to hurt anybody's ears. But do that.
Okay, I got you.
I'll see you guys around too. That way it doesn't sound like I'm not saying bye.